You gutted him like a fish in that apartment too. You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead.
I didn't mean to kill Oscar. I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
There's so many people I know that if you told them the facts, they want to break your neck.
If this happened to my daughter, or this happened to my granddaughter, you wouldn't be here. I would get charged with a penal law violation of assault or worse.
You can confirm that the video that this jury saw is of you throwing your own newborn into the dumpster.
This is Alexis Avila, who's on trial for child abuse in Hobbs, New Mexico. On a cold January day in 2022, CCTV cameras captured a lady, later identified as 18-year-old Alexis Avila, driving to a dumpster and dropping off what appeared to be a black garbage bag. Hours later, 3 dumpster divers go through the same dumpster, scavenging for goods. At first, they seemed confused upon finding the black garbage bag. Hearing faint cries from inside, they first suspected it to be a trapped cat, but when one of them opened the bag, it led to a shocking discovery. April Meadow, who was one of the divers, found a newborn child wrapped in a cold, wet towel, whimpering and freezing to death.
She could have took him to the hospital, took him to a church, took him somewhere other than throwing him away like a piece of trash.
Without a second thought, she cradled the baby and kissed its forehead, while the others called 911.
911, what is your emergency?
We just found a baby in the trash.
Is it breathing?
Yes, ma'am. He still has umbilical cord. He's whimpering. He was not kind, actually.
Police soon arrived at the scene and secured the bag and the CCTV footage as evidence. The baby was rushed to a hospital. Miraculously, it survived. Avila was identified from the footage and brought in for questioning, where she admitted to her crime in great detail.
I put it in the bag. I took it to the car. When I was in the car, I had 2 trash bags. I took one with me, which is the one that I had, and then I put it again, and then I drove around and I didn't know what to do, and I just put it in there.
Where'd you throw the garbage bag?
In the trash.
In the trash? Okay, did you lock it up, seal it up?
With the hair tie.
I'm sorry?
With the hair tie.
The hair tie?
But I don't even think it stuck because it was broke.
Right there, just throw it there, what did you do?
What do you mean?
I mean,
Like in the trash, when I tossed it in
On
there.
the trash can, like what was it, they pick up, the city picks up, or a bigger trash can, or what?
The bigger trash can be.
Well, what kind of trash?
Avila said she put the baby amongst other trash, drove around for a while, and then threw the bag in a dump. Avila tried to justify herself by saying that she acted out in a panic.
You wrap around a newborn inside a trash
In a
bag.
panic. I just turned 18.
Right.
And I'm in a panic. There's a baby in front of me.
Avila also seemed to be under the impression that she didn't do anything wrong. Then, Avila made a bizarre statement, saying she was aware of her pregnancy, but didn't actually know that she was pregnant.
I found out I was pregnant yesterday.
Okay.
Because I heard it. The doctor showed me. I knew back in whenever.
Needless to say, authorities didn't buy her story and charged Avila with attempted first-degree murder and child abuse, resulting in great bodily harm. At her trial, Avila testified, saying she doesn't recall giving birth to the baby.
So this time around when you went to the restroom, what happened? I don't really. How did that happen? I don't remember.
She also claimed to be in shock and didn't remember disposing of the infant in the trash.
I was in shock. Like, how could this happen?
In fact, Avila said the only thing she recollected from that day was leaving the police station.
Prior to the police station and going to the hospital, you don't remember anything that happened the next day? I don't know.
But the prosecution was having none of it. They made Avila admit to her crimes in front of the jury.
You can confirm that the video that this jury saw is of you throwing your own newborn into a dumpster. The contents of this bag were used by you, as seen in the video, to throw your newborn into the dumpster. Isn't that true?
That's what that doesn't agree with.
And that's because that was you committing this crime, wasn't it?
Yes.
Even though Avila maintained that she came to know about her pregnancy one day before tossing the newborn in a dumpster, Stephen Astorga, Avila's ex-boyfriend and the father of the abandoned baby, revealed both Avila and he knew about the pregnancy since April 2021, 8 months prior to the incident.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
When did you first get the news that Miss Avila was suspected? Around April of 2021? April of 2021. How did you receive that information?
By the pregnancy test.
And did you observe the pregnancy test, or did someone tell you about the pregnancy test?
No, I observed it.
After hours of deliberation, the jury eventually came to an unsurprising verdict.
We find the defendant, Alexis Nicole Avila, guilty of abuse of a child resulting in great bodily harm as charged in count 1, signed by the foreperson. We find the defendant, Alexis Nicole Avila, guilty of attempt to commit first-degree murder as charged in count 1, signed by the foreperson.
At her sentencing, Avila addressed the courtroom, where she showed remorse for her actions.
I regret that I had to miss out on every first milestone the baby had, and that I deprived him of motherly love. I regret that his first hours of life were traumatic, and I regret that he will always have this in the back of his head.
Before deciding her fate, Judge William Shoebridge made some poignant remarks.
You've given yourself a life sentence of knowing what you did with your child. And you've also given your son that same life sentence.
Ultimately, Alexis Avila was sentenced to 16 years in prison. As for the baby, he's now named Saul and lives a healthy life with his father's family. While the young mother panicked and made a rash decision that changed her life forever, how does it compare to intentionally crashing a car to kill someone? Like in the case of Mackenzie Sharilla, a double murder suspect in Ohio.
This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
In the early hours of July 31st, 2022, surveillance cameras captured a Toyota Camry being driven around in Strongsville. Driving the car was 17-year-old Mackenzie Sharilla, her boyfriend Dominic Russo sitting beside her, and their friend Davian Flanagan in the back seat. At first, the car made a normal right turn, appearing to be moving under the speed limit. Moments later, the unthinkable happened. Accelerating at over 100 miles per hour, the car veered off the road and smashed into the side of a building. The crash took the young lives of 20-year-old Russo and 19-year-old Flanagan. Miraculously, Sharilla managed to survive with only injuries to her legs. Even though it seemed like an accident, an investigation revealed that Sharilla had purposefully accelerated moments before the crash.
The prosecution is demanding a murder conviction because of evidence presented by experts that the gas pedal on the car was pushed to 100 miles per hour with 100% pressure without any attempts ever to hit the brake.
Subsequently, she was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder. At her trial, a trauma surgeon who worked on Sharilla's medical report took the stand. According to her report, Sharilla took responsibility for the deadly crash that killed her boyfriend and their friend.
It stated she, open quote, wanted to die, close quote, and that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend.
However, the defense admitted the crash was Sharilla's fault, but argued that she didn't cause it purposely.
You just said and read that Mackenzie said it was her fault, correct?
I did read those words.
That's what it says. It didn't say that she purposely killed someone, did it?
Those words do not appear in that note.
And whatever those words were, you weren't there to hear them.
That is correct.
He said no one would ever know what exactly happened in the car that night.
We are really never going to know what happened in that car, much less prove by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that she purposely drove that car. Purposely. It has to be established that at the time in question, there was present in the mind of Mackenzie a specific intent to cause the death of her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and her friend, Davian Flanagan.
They also argued that there could have been a lot of factors that led to the crash.
Is it just kids being kids? Is it Dominic grabbing the steering wheel? Is it Mackenzie maybe speeding and saying, oh my God, park out, it's late, I'm coming up to this, I better do something, and she goes like that to avoid an accident, not acting purposely, but in fact trying to avoid it? Is it sudden acceleration panic? Those are all possibilities.
Since it was a bench trial, the verdict was up to Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, who said Sharilla's actions were intentional and the teenager was aware of what she was doing.
The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. She alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle to 90 to 100 miles per hour.
The judge also said Sharilla wanted to kill Russo and Flanagan, and perhaps herself too, in the crash.
Whether or not she intended to also kill herself is a matter of speculation. They have no relevance to the weighing of the evidence in this case. The totality of the evidence clearly demonstrates that Mackenzie Sharilla acted purposely and intentionally in the early morning hours of July 31st, 2022. Her purpose was to kill Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan.
Eventually, Judge Margaret delivered the verdict.
The court, having had count 1 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant Mackenzie Sharilla guilty of murder to commit Dominic Russo in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.02a, as charged in count 1. Count 2. The court, having had count 2 tried to pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant Mackenzie Sharilla guilty of murder to commit Davian Flanagan in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section.
For sentencing, Flanagan's sister asked the judge to give Sharilla the longest possible sentence.
I would like you to give Mackenzie the longest possible sentence. I've known her for about 3 years, and actually, she's always taken the easy way out. She will be eligible for parole, while my brother will be gone forever. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay.
Russo's brother also took the stand, where he said Sharilla was the most selfish person he knew.
Nothing said or done here today can describe the loss or repair our lives after this tragedy. Kenzie's statement in the hospital to Detective Zoo, "Can't you just take my license away for 10 years or something?" That statement is Mackenzie Sharilla. The most selfish person I know. Ironically, Dom is the most selfish person I know.
Sharilla too addressed the court and read out a letter she had written in a bid to get a lenient punishment.
I'm not an idiot. I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davian. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away. And I'm so sorry. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys gave. Thank you for fighting me. I love you all so much.
Ultimately, Sharilla was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murder of Dominic Russo and Davian Flanagan, while Mackenzie Sharilla could spend the rest of her life in jail for her actions. What happens when you have deep desires to kill?
My name is Ethan Crumbly, and I'm going to be innocent.
Like in the case of Ethan Crumbly, a mass shooting suspect facing multiple murder charges in Michigan.
You're all here because of me. My actions were because of what I chose to do. I could not stop myself, but I am a really bad person.
On November 30th, 2021, 15-year-old Ethan opened fire at his Oxford high school, fatally injuring several students and teachers. Ethan reportedly used his father's 9mm handgun and called 911 once he found the gun missing. Within minutes, first responders arrived at the scene. They evacuated everyone to safety.
We're not willing to take that risk right now. We're not taking that risk right now. Okay, we'll put the door for that, bro.
Yeah, bro.
No, don't.
Tragically, it was too late for 3 students who died at the scene. A 4th succumbed to his injuries later at the hospital. Ethan was arrested shortly after the shooting.
You don't stop it. Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it? I know you stopped it. Please stop it. Please stop it. Please stop it. Please stop it. Why did you stop it, God? Why did you stop it? Why did you stop it, God? Why did you stop it?
His parents were called to the station where they confronted their killer son.
I don't think he needs to have any questions right now.
However, Ethan's only concern was his cat Dexter. Apparently named after a psychopathic TV character. His parents were shocked at their son's lack of remorse. Ethan was charged with first-degree murder and terrorism. At his trial, the prosecution laid out the seriousness of the case.
But everyone else is here in this courtroom today because this defendant made the decision to kill 4 other people and to take their lives instead of his own.
Ethan's journal and chilling text messages containing a list of things he needed for the shooting, including pistol mags, a mask, and a knife, were presented as evidence. Ethan had written his desires for the shooting in graphic detail.
So in the margin there, it says, I wonder what life in prison will be like. There's 1 9mm pistol, extra mags, and then to the right it says half blood, and the word underneath that it says fuck. And then 2 to 5 Molotov cocktails, 1 to 3 powdered, I believe it's NOS flares, pair of gloves, a hat, jacket, mask, knife.
Ethan also mentioned that he wanted his victims' parents to suffer.
I want for the parents to see their kids burn to ash and bawl their eyes out.
There were also mentions of a failed kidnapping and murder plan of a girl next door.
I started making a plan. It was a plan to kidnap and kill her. I talked to find out where she lives and found out she lives a 5-minute walk away from me. I made this plan to break in the BR bedroom at night and kidnap her with an industrial-sized garbage bag.
A week before the shooting, Ethan did a bunch of Google searches about prison sentences in Michigan. One day before the incident, he recorded his thoughts and plans for the shooting.
Walk to the dividend between the boys and the girls' bathroom. I will have my body jacket on, and I will walk around somewhere, and I will shoot a bullet here in school. I'm going to open fire on everyone in that hallway. The hallways are too jam-packed. I'm going to try and hit as many people as I can. I will reload, and I will find people hiding. I'm going to teach them a lesson out there.
Ethan went on to say how he couldn't get the idea of killing people out of his mind.
I thought about this a lot. I can't stop thinking about it.
His school principal took to the stand where she recounted how she desperately tried to save one of the victims.
It was crushing. I had to help him. I just needed to save him for his mom. But I needed him to hang with me. I could taste his blood. There was so much blood. It was all over me.
Ethan initially pleaded not guilty on the grounds of insanity since he had several chaotic meltdowns in custody. While at one time he asked for help, on another occasion he kept yelling, "Oh God, why didn't you stop it?" and "I am sorry." A mental health expert said Ethan had a psychotic episode and deemed him mentally ill.
Someone who's saying, God, why didn't you stop it? And that's exactly how psychosis works. You engage in an action, and somehow you don't understand the outcome of the consequences. He's having a panic attack and a break with reality.
The school senior also said that Ethan was often bullied and picked on.
It was like, it's a shooting at the Oxford High School, and I was like, nah, this is a joke. He was like, no, bro, this is serious.
Do you know any of the students? Do you know who this 15-year-old is who did the shooting?
No, I do not know who he is, but I have seen him around the school, and he's a kid, you know, he's a regular kid that goes to school, you know? He's been picked on and stuff like this, so when a kid has been picked on and some people's bullying him, you're gonna get this. You're gonna get this reaction.
However, Ethan later confessed and pleaded guilty to all charges.
True that your actions on November 30, 2021 caused the deaths of Madison Baldwin, Tamir, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling.
Yes. At his sentencing, family members of the victims addressed the killer of their loved ones.
As I don't wish death upon you, that would be too easy. I hope that thoughts consume you and they replay over and over in your head.
While the mother of one victim wished for a worse punishment than death, the father of another asked the judge to sentence him to life.
I feel strongly that individuals should never be allowed to walk among his peers again. This is why I'm going to ask you to lock this son of a for the rest of his pathetic life. His blatant lack of human decency and disturbing thoughts on life in general do not in any way warrant a second chance. My son doesn't get a second chance, and neither should he.
A remorseful Ethan spoke to the victims' families and apologized for the pain he caused them.
My actions were because of what I chose to do. I could not stop myself. I am a really bad person. I really am sorry for what I've done, for what I've taken, and I cannot give it back, but I can try my best in the future to help other people, and that is what I will do.
Ultimately, it was time to learn his fate.
Since the court is finished, shall serve the rest of his life without the possibility of parole with the Michigan Department of Corrections, credit for 8 days served.
Ethan Crumbley was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 24 years. Later, his parents James and Jennifer Crumbley were charged with involuntary manslaughter for failing to secure the handgun and ignoring the warning signs of their son's behavior. Ethan had previously claimed that he paid James to buy him the gun which was used in the shooting.
Is it true that you asked him to buy the firearm?
Yes.
Is it true that you gave him your own money to buy the firearm?
Yes.
CCTV footage also showed Ethan practicing shooting with Jennifer at a local range with the same gun, just days before he killed 4 people. The parents fled after the shooting and were arrested while hiding in a friend's shop. Both were convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. This was the first time in American history that a parent was criminally charged for a mass school shooting committed by their child. While Ethan Crumbley will spend the rest of his life in prison for shooting up his school, what happens when a group of teens plan a horrific murder? In the case of Michael Bargo, who's on trial for murder in Florida.
The local teen was beaten, shot, mutilated, burned into ashes, and his remains sunk to the bottom of a local quarry.
Police said 18-year-old Bargo was the alleged mastermind of a murderous conspiracy where he recruited Amber Wright, her 16-year-old brother Kyle Hooper, and their friends Justin Soto and Charlie Eli, who were 20 and 18 at the time, to kill 15-year-old Seth Jackson. Reports suggest that there was bad blood between Bargo and Jackson. They both had a romantic interest in 15-year-old Wright. Police said Wright allegedly lured Jackson to Eli's house where the 3 boys brutally beat the teenager while the girls kept watch. Bargo then shot Jackson multiple times before burning his body in a fire pit. Jackson's remains were then dumped in a limestone quarry nearby.
Investigators are searching this abandoned lime pit on State Road 40 in Ocala. The Bellevue teenager was killed inside this Summerfield home Sunday night.
As Jackson's disappearance hit the news, Hooper crumbled and confessed everything to his mother, who called the authorities.
Bam, bam, bam. By the end of the week, I want to have at least 8 bodies.
Detective Stewart, how are you doing today? Are you going to be honest with Mom here? Yeah, he actually confessed to me this morning. Okay. I'll meet this right. I told your mom and start from the beginning, okay?
Okay. Just Seth wanted to talk to my sister. So later on, Seth comes to the house, and I don't like the kid completely because he has put his hands on my sister.
Okay.
Okay. There was a stick, and I was like, you know what? And I hit him over the head with the stick.
Who'd you hit?
Seth.
Okay.
And he was in the chair, and I got in the kitchen. I said, now get the out the house. And then all of a sudden, I hear bam, bam, bam. Mike sitting there laying bullets into him.
So you saw Mike Bargo shoot Seth?
Yes, ma'am. And he grabbed the body, put it into the bathtub, and then he was talking about how he was going to burn it, and then there was a rock quarry over here by Gander Mountain or whatever, and he was going to dump the ashes or whatever into the rock quarry.
So he was going to go burn the body and then take the ashes and put them in the rock quarry. Did he ever tell you where he burnt the body?
In the burn barrel at that house, because how I know this...
Oh, wait a second, at the burn barrel at Charlie's
It's not
house?
a burn barrel, it's a burn pit.
Police arrived and searched the fire pit and the quarry for Jackson's remains. All 5 were arrested and brought in for questioning. Then, Soto gave a gruesome description of how Bargo mutilated Jackson's dead body.
Who broke his legs and knees?
I think Mike did it.
Did you see Mike do it?
I was like right there in the doorway. Took a stick and started hitting him in his knees and all that shit.
Did you help him with that?
No, I didn't help him with that.
All 5 were charged with first-degree murder. In court, Bargo appeared with injuries on his face, which, according to witness testimony, was suffered while disposing of Jackson's body.
And what did he tell you happened to his face?
He just said, well, when I was burning that kid Seth's body, you know, I threw a paint can in and it blew up my face.
The witness, who shared a jail cell with Bargo, said the teenager made a chilling admission to him.
He said he hit him over the back of the head with a 2x4, and then they lifted him up, put him in a recliner, and then started basically, you know, talking trash to him. Then he said when he was tired of it, you know, he pulled out a gun, just shot him 3 times in the recliner. So I guess they took the body from the bathtub once he was dead and bring him outside behind the house, and that's where they tried to burn the body.
Bargo's friend also testified against him, saying the teenager confessed to her the gruesome details of the murder.
He had drugged him back in the house, placed him in the bathtub, and had beaten him some more, and shot him twice in the face.
Ultimately, the jury convicted Bargo of all charges and handed him the death penalty.
Majority of the jury, by a vote of 10 to 2, advised and recommended to the court that it imposed the death penalty upon Michael J. Bargo Jr. dated this 27th day of August 2013.
Bargo became the youngest inmate on Florida's death row. As for the other 4, they were sentenced to life in prison without any chance of parole. However, in 2020, Charlie Eli was released from prison after her murder sentence was overturned. While Michael Bargo's raging jealousy put him on death row, what happens when you claim to follow Satan's orders and murder someone?
Ну а что, должен был заезд ее убить?
Где? Избавиться от сомнений.
От каких сомнений?
В себе.
Ну а зачем вы так с ней расправились?
Потому что я должен. Себе должен. Я должен так себе. Я осознанно это делаю.
Like in the case of Leonid Greiser, who's on trial for murder in Russia. As per reports, 18-year-old Greiser killed his sister at their apartment in Moscow, claiming that Satan had ordered him to do it. Greiser was found naked with his sister's body covered with demonic symbols painted with blood. During questioning, Greiser was seen smiling and free of remorse.
Как с сестрой расправились?
Greiser asserted that he had to kill his sister to get rid of the doubts he had in himself.
Ну а что, должен был заезд ее убить?
Нет, избавиться от сомнений.
От каких сомнений?
В себе.
Ну а зачем вы так с ней расправились?
Потому что я должен.
Police also found drugs in his apartment, which might have been a contributing factor. But Greiser said he was aware of what he was doing. In court, Greiser was put behind a glass cage to prevent him from escaping. But Greiser had other ideas, and his first attempt to escape was thwarted. Greiser took the high road, He somehow managed to squeeze through the roof of the cage and tried to escape through the false ceiling of the courtroom. Stunned officers desperately tried to get to Greiser. One of them managed to pull his pants down but struggled to hold him down. Finally, more officers arrived and threatened to tase Greiser. Eventually, he gave up and crawled back into his glass cell and was asked to pull his pants back up. The dust settled, Greiser was handcuffed to prevent any more shenanigans. Ultimately, a judge sentenced Greiser to compulsory psychiatric medical treatment every 6 months. While Leon and Greiser failed to escape the law, what happens when the law gets it wrong? Like in the case of Carlos Jimenez and Zachary Tost, who are facing murder charges in South Carolina. According to reports, Carlos, Zachary, and Carlos's brother Daniel Jimenez were involved in a 2019 shooting outside Belton Woods' apartment in Anderson.
Police say it happened Monday night. Carlos was standing outside Belton Woods' apartments with his brother Daniel and Zachary.
Police said a car pulled up to the trail and shots were fired by both parties. Zachary was shot in the arm while Daniel tragically lost his life.
His brother was murdered. They killed him in front of us.
Even though police were not sure who actually fired the fatal shot, both Carlos and Zachary were arrested and charged. At their bond hearing, when Zachary's bond was denied, he tried to make a case for himself.
Mr. Thomas, I'm going to deny your bond.
Sir, please.
Can we please just talk, sir? How do you do that, sir?
What do you do that?
Sure, Miss Lieutenant, come on up and investigate a bond if you would come up.
Along with his mom, Zachary pleaded with the judge to reconsider.
Well, don't tell me.
I'm not trying to.
He's not like
He's not. As soon as they called me yesterday and
When
told me
you-
to come and pick me up,
We
I got
cooperate.
All right,
You have no
Miss
worries
Todd.
of him being here. I will sign my life
Miss
oath
Todd.
that he will be here in court.
Okay.
I'm just letting him cover and know that he will be here.
Zachary claimed that they were in fact the victims in this case, as Carlos broke down in the background.
We've got a situation here,
Yes,
Miss
because
Thomas.
there are people out there.
We are the victims, sir.
They're the victims. His brother was murdered.
They killed him in front of us.
All right, I'm
They
going
shot
to
him.
suggest
And
to
those
you.
people have hands that run deep.
The judge held firm. Zachary's mother was not about to give up.
3 days is a long time. He has had his antibiotic now. Please, we will bring him here. His brother is here. We won't come back home. Get him in the car. He'll be there.
The mother and son duo kept pleading their innocence, but the judge had a word of warning for them.
Everything's being recorded here.
And I'm
want
thanking God it is.
Okay, but what I want to caution you about is anything you said here that might hurt his case can be used against him. So my suggestion is to hold all this until the preliminary hearing.
Ultimately, the judge denied bonds for both Zachary Tost and Carlos Jimenez. While Carlos Jimenez and Zachary Tost got a tough break with the law, how does it compare to shooting an officer of the law?
The officer decided to take Belton to the jail, but the team became violent.
Like in the case of Jonathan Belton, who was on trial for murder in Michigan. Police said on December 28, 2008, Oak Park safety officer Mason Samborski pulled over Belton for a routine stop in Detroit. Upon learning that the 16-year-old did not have a driver's license, Officer Samborski was falsely led to a nearby apartment to meet Belton's mother.
He pulled Belton over on a traffic stop, and Belton somehow convinced the officer he had to get home to see his mom at her apartment.
Once there, Belton tried to flee and a struggle ensued, which resulted in the teenager shooting Officer Samborski in the head and killing him with his own service gun. Belton was arrested and charged with murder and other gun-related charges. At his trial, a first responder said Officer Samborski had no pulse by the time he arrived.
Okay, and did you find any vital signs coming from Officer Samborski when you were doing that? I checked for vitals first. I found no pulse and no breathing.
He also testified that the officer was bleeding from a wound to the back of his head.
What was the first location you noted that he was bleeding from? He was a large wound in the back of his head.
The prosecution argued that Belton intended to harm and kill Officer Samborski.
The defendant either intended to kill Officer Samborski, intended to do great bodily harm to Officer Samborski, or knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm.
The defense responded by saying Officer Samborski shot himself during the struggle.
Johnny Belton never pulled any trigger of any kind, anywhere, any place.
But Belton's girlfriend, who was present during the crime, took the stand and proved the defense wrong.
When you saw defendant Jonathan Belton with a gun in his right hand, did you tell where it was pointed towards?
Eventually, the jury found Belton guilty on all charges.
Murder of a police officer, guilty as charged of murder of a police officer. Count 2, possession of a firearm and commission of a felony, guilty as charged of felony crime.
At his sentencing, Officer Samborski's widow addressed Belton, saying she would never forgive him.
One day you regret what you did and realize what you could have done differently. You are alive, and your family gets to see you and talk to you. We don't get to see or talk to Mason ever again. We get nothing but pain and wonderment of what our future could have been. Jonathan Belton, you shattered my happiness, my hopes, and my dreams, and for that I will never forgive you.
Belton was also given a chance to speak to his family. Ultimately, Belton was sentenced to life in prison without any chance of parole. However, his sentence was later reduced to 40 to 70 years in prison due to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that made mandatory life sentences for juveniles unconstitutional. While Jonathan Belton will spend most of his life in prison for killing a cop, what happens when a kid commits a heinous crime?
In 2009, Harris was 12 when his gun went off during an attempted robbery. Harris killed Trisha Babcock.
Like in the case of DeMarco Harris, who was in a juvenile court in Detroit, Michigan, facing murder charges. According to reports, Harris was only 12 when he shot and killed 24-year-old Trisha Babcock in the Rosedale Park neighborhood during a botched robbery attempt. Due to his young age, Harris was tried and convicted for the murder as a juvenile.
If DeMarco has successfully complied with all the terms of his probation by the 21st birthday, he will be released from the court's jurisdiction.
At sentencing, Babcock's father delivered a powerful victim impact statement.
I'm never going to be able to get my daughter away on her wedding date. I'm never going to be able to hold her grandbaby. You took my bloodline. You took my little girl, Trisha. And people mention all the time in this court and the murder trials about a child. What about my child?
Harris was also given a chance to apologize to the victim's family.
I am forgiven right now. God, I help you. Sorry for having to family.
If my son goes down to 21 of the rest of his life, I know that would never ever heal that hurt in your heart, heal the pain. I pray to God.
His mother also addressed the Babcock family, asking for forgiveness. Eventually, it was time for the judge to decide the 12-year-old's fate.
If DeMarco has successfully complied with all the terms of his probation by the 21st birthday, he will be released from the court's jurisdiction.
Safe to say, the victim's loved ones were not at all happy with the sentence.
He has an opportunity to walk free at 21, which doesn't set well with me or any of my family members.
Now, at 21 years of age, Harris was set to be released.
DeMarco Harris is now 21 years old and a free man.
During the hearing, Babcock's father once again made an emotional statement. Harris also read a letter addressing Babcock's family.
Remorse for the life of Trisha Babcock, a life lost. I am truly apologetic. I feel that I am a prime example of what rehabilitation looks like and absolutely deserve a second chance in society.
Since Harris had fulfilled all the conditions of his previous sentencing, the judge reluctantly released him.
No, I've been told that once he reaches 21, he's supposed to get that notice. I'm not so sure about that.
Well, DeMarco Harris got the rub of the green from the law. What happens when you brutally kill your classmate?
I think of killing someone and I smirk. I like the sound of it. The idea of causing pain on someone who's getting in my way or who's causing me pain.
Like in the case of Matthew Borges, who's facing murder charges in Lawrence, Massachusetts. According to reports, 15-year-old Borges brutally stabbed and decapitated his high school classmate Lee Manuel Viloria Paulino in November 2016. Police recovered the mutilated body of the 16-year-old along the banks of the Merrimack River. Surveillance footage revealed that Lee was last seen alive with Borges. Police later uncovered a robbery plot where Borges lured Lee out of his house. 4 teenagers stole his stuff. Lee was not seen alive again. Borges was arrested and charged with murder in the first degree. At his trial, the man who first discovered Lee's body took the stand.
As I approached, I got closer, saw her really sniffing at a particular area. So I pulled her back, and when I looked, I kind of second-guessed myself. I thought I saw a dead body, but I wasn't too sure.
Also taking the stand was one of the 4 teenagers who testified that Borges had later confessed to the savage killing.
He told me that he killed Lee and cut off his head.
Did he tell you how he killed him?
He said that he stabbed him.
Why he stabbed him in the throat?
Yeah.
Why did he say that?
Because he wouldn't shut up.
However, the defense argued that there was no physical evidence or motive connecting Borges to the crime.
No murder weapon. There is no tools to dismember a body. There are no fingerprints, there is no blood, there is no DNA.
But the testimony of Leilani De Jesus, Matthew Borges' ex-girlfriend, provided the jurors with a motive, where she said Borges would often get jealous of her and the victim. The prosecution also read out an entry from a journal the two maintained, which revealed Borges' heinous plans.
If go chill with him, at his crib alone, drink, smoke, and play it off. Kill him. Call Jan and Scooby, tell him pull up, then take everything. Bring duffel bag, wear gloves, clean up mess, wear bags on shoes, wear clothes you don't care about.
Chilling text messages between Borges and another ex-girlfriend were also presented as evidence. Even though no physical or DNA evidence was ever found, the jury convicted Borges for the murder of Lee Manuel Viloria Paulino. Eventually, it was time for Borges to learn his fate.
Court, having duly considered your offense, it is ordered by the court that you be punished by confinement for a term of life, with parole eligibility on the theory of extreme atrocity and cruelty at 30 years.
Ultimately, Borges was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. While Matthew Borges may never taste freedom again for his heinous acts, how does it compare to brutally murdering your teacher?
The defendant violently Colleen Richard. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen in the girls' bathroom, just feet from the classroom.
Like in the case of Philip Chisholm.
On the shocking killing of the high school math teacher, a 14-year-old student you see there under arrest right now.
Was on trial for a grisly murder in Massachusetts. According to reports, in 2013, 14-year-old Chisholm sexually assaulted, stabbed, and robbed his math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, in a bathroom at Danvers High School. CCTV footage from the school's hallway showed Ritzer going towards the ladies' room, while Chisholm secretly stalked her. He then followed her inside the bathroom while putting on gloves in the process. A few minutes later, Chisholm was seen running outside and grabbed a large recycling bin and headed back to the bathroom. He was then seen with his face covered, dragging the bin out of the bathroom through the hallway and outside the school. Police said Chisholm stole Ritzer's purse, keys, and credit cards. Hours later, he even bought a movie ticket with one of the stolen credit cards. Then, around midnight, police found Chisholm walking along Route 1, where he confessed to the murder.
I asked him if we could, if he knew where the girl was.
What did he tell you?
He stated that she was buried in the woods.
And what did you ask him next?
I asked him if we can get to him, can we help her?
And what did he tell you?
He said no.
Police also found the murder weapon in Chisholm's pocket, covered with Ritzer's blood. Ritzer's body was found in the woods near the school, a few yards away from the place of her dream job. Chisholm was charged with first-degree sexual assault, armed robbery, and first-degree murder. At his trial, investigators took the stand, revealing Chisholm's confession while in custody.
So he said he karate chopped her neck, was rendering her unconscious. He talked about putting his hand on her mouth, and then he talked about dragging that box cutter across her neck without it causing any injury. And then he said the second time, the murder again.
Chisholm even told police where to find Ritzer's body.
He'd asked him to kind of draw us a map of the area so that we could kind of
pinpoint where she would be.
That wasn't enough. Even Chisholm's defense admitted that he was a murderer,
Philip Chisholm killed Colleen Ritzer.
but offered the explanation that Chisholm was severely mentally ill.
He had been suffering from a psychotic disorder since the age of 10.
The prosecution argued that Ritzer's murder was premeditated, as Chisholm went to school that day well prepared.
Blue sweatshirt with a hood, gloves, a mask, a box cutter.
Unsurprisingly, the jury convicted Chisholm on all counts.
Defendant Philip Chisholm is guilty of deliberate premeditation and extreme atrocity cruelty on indictment number 2013-1446, charging him with murder in the first degree.
At his sentencing, Judge David Lowry detailed the violent nature of Chisholm's crime.
The defendant violently Colleen Ritzer. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen.
Ultimately, Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison, with a chance for parole after 40 years for the murder of Colleen Ritzer. But Chisholm would be back again in 2024.
A man convicted of killing a teacher in Danvers when he was a teenager has now pleaded guilty in a separate assault case.
Chisholm, now 25, pleaded guilty to attempted murder and kidnapping charges. Back in 2015, while awaiting trial for Colleen Ritzer's murder, Chisholm attacked and seriously injured a female juvenile detention worker. This time, he was sentenced to 17 to 20 years in state prison for the attack on the youth worker. While some would say that Philip Chisholm received a lenient sentence, the convict in our next case got away with even less time served. This is Jamiko Hayden, who was on trial for murder in Kentucky. On December 19th, 2019, police said 19-year-old Christian Gwynn was gunned down while walking down a street near his home in Louisville. The killer fled the scene in a stolen car, which was later found in the possession of a man named Jamiko Hayden. Hayden was arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
And when you say a murder charges,
You have a charge of murder from December 19th of 2019, so no contact with the family of Christian Gwynn.
The case never went to trial, and 2 years later, Hayden accepted a plea deal where he pled guilty to lesser charges of second-degree manslaughter, theft, and possession of a handgun by a convicted felon. At his sentencing, an emotional mother addressed her son's killer.
There's no mathematical number that they can give you that can make this heartache pain go away. That you caused my family. 10 years is not enough because you're still breathing, you still get the live, you still get visitation, phone calls, and live.
Just as the grieving mother was ending her statement, Hayden smirked at the family.
You killed my son, Christian Gwynn. You took a son away from his father and a brother away from his siblings, and for that you will never be forgiven.
This is when things got heated.
Payment to your family and people out here in community.
Is it funny, bro? Is it funny?
Sir,
Is it funny? You want to crack a smile, sir? You want to crack a smile,
I
bro?
have to ask you to leave. I wish the judge would give you forever.
Don't laugh at the man.
I wish you would get forever for taking away my son.
Both the victim's father and the defendant were removed from the courtroom. After the dust settled, now it was the victim's sister whose emotions got the better of her.
The great man, and for that, I hope forever your days are hard and you never see the sun again. I hope you
Ultimately, Hayden was sentenced to 10 years in prison as part of his plea deal. While Jamiko Hayden got just 10 years of jail time for murdering a teenager, how much time would you get behind bars for stabbing your parents? Like in the case of Tia Skinner, who was on trial for the murder of her adoptive father in Michigan. In the early hours of November 12th, 2010, authorities received a chilling 911 call. On the phone was 17-year-old Tia Skinner, her voice trembling in fear and panic.
911, what's the location of your emergency? Okay, what is your name? So you're downstairs? Yes, I want to go upstairs. Okay, what is your name? Tia Skinner.
Authorities also received a 911 call from Tia's mother, Mara, who pleaded with them for help.
What is your brother saying? My brother's helping. My mother's scared.
Tia's brother Jeff then took over the call, saying an intruder had stabbed his parents.
What's your name? My name's Jeff. Jeff, tell me exactly what happened. Somebody came in and stabbed your mom?
Jeff also mentioned that his father was badly hurt.
Okay, well, we need to control the bleeding, okay?
Paul Skinner, who suffered multiple stab wounds to his chest and abdomen, died shortly after. Police arrived and rushed Mara to the hospital, where she received multiple knife wounds all over her body. Investigations revealed that two intruders wearing masks climbed in through the bedroom window and ambushed Paul and Mara in their bed. It also led to the shocking truth that Tia's demeanor that night on the 911 call was completely fake. Police arrested and charged the three teenagers with murder and conspiracy, including Tia Skinner. The other two were 18-year-olds Jonathan Kurtz and James Preston. At their trial, the prosecution said Tia was the mastermind of the horrific attack.
She designed the plan, and although she didn't climb those stairs that horrific evening and use a knife to stab two individuals 25 times, she certainly aided and abetted in that offense.
They claimed the attack on the couple was in retaliation, as they did not approve of Tia and Kurtz's relationship. This was backed up by an investigator who said Tia's behavior when they arrived seemed stoic, despite the horrific attack on her parents.
No, her demeanor would not give me any indications that there was anything amiss.
Also testified in court, describing the brutal attack she faced that night.
And I lifted my head and looked toward where his voice was, because it was dark in our room. And at that moment, I realized that I was being attacked, and he was being attacked.
Eventually, the jury convicted the three teens on first-degree premeditated murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder. After sentencing, Mara Skinner addressed the two teens who attacked her and killed her husband.
Screams and our cries for help went unanswered. You heard them, and you chose not to stop, not to have mercy on us.
Then, Mara turned her attention towards her adopted daughter, Tia.
Tia, you completely puzzled me. I thought I knew you. I thought we shared the same feelings, values, loves, and life. But I guess I never really knew you at all.
Now it was time for the teenagers to learn their fate.
For the premeditated, deliberate murder of your father.
You are hereby committed to the Michigan Department of Corrections to be imprisoned for the remainder of your life without any opportunity.
Ultimately, all three received life sentences without parole for the murder of Paul Skinner, including his daughter.